Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hello, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, I'm going to be using a random destination generator, Earth Roulette, to create a location, two different emotions, and randomly generate three different nouns, and then build the hypnosis session around that. Before I do that though, before I share my screen for the YouTube listeners or viewers and start the hypnosis, just wanted to echo my thanks really, because last month was a record-breaking month in terms of downloads and new audiences. I'll be honest, I have no idea how I generated more, let's say, of an audience than I had before. I'm not really sure why. So if you are a new listener to the podcast, feel free to follow me on Instagram, maybe drop me a message, just because I'm confused by it. And I like that kind of element of completeness as to know how and why we're generating more of an audience. To give you an idea, in December, we had about 63,000 downloads in a month. And in January, it was 109,000. And that's like a 69% increase in a month, which for me is mind-blowing. So thank you very much for watching, for listening. It's really appreciated. But now to the random hypnosis. For YouTube, I'm going to share my screen. And the destination is called Winter Park in the United States. It is in Florida near Orlando. It doesn't really say too much. It says that there is a Charles Hosmer Morse Museum of American Art. There is a historical museum. There is a chapel. There is a fine arts museum. And yeah, there's kind of like lots of palm trees, villages, and things like that. Now, I don't know too much about Winter Park, but I have been to Orlando, and I lived in Florida for a few months when I was about 21 years old. So we'll use, let's say, Winter Park / Florida and Orlando as the destination, because obviously we've got things like the humidity, the heat, sunshine of Florida. The random emotion generator, interesting ones, terror and envy. Again, just to echo my sentiments on emotions, all emotions are resourceful in the right context. If you can be terrified of doing something fundamentally wrong, that's not a bad, outcome. And also having the resources to manage terror is quite useful. And envy, for me, is a cousin of inspiration. Although envy is seen as kind of like jealousy, it may mean that what you're envious of is something that you secretly desire at some level. And therefore it can be, let's say, morphed into inspiration, which is a more useful resource. And the three nouns: insurance, inject, and skate. So insurance could be the financial form of insurance, but it could be a contingency, some kind of protection to reduce risk. Inject could be an injection, but it could also be to in an infusion of something useful. So like fuel injection, kind of engines and things like that. And skate could be roller skating, ice skating. So we've got these three randomly generated nouns. We've got the emotions of terror and envy, and we have Winter Park in Florida as the destination. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for YouTube here. I have my 15-minute sound timer. And if you want to experience the hypnosis as an experience rather than just kind of listening passively. Find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and if it's safe to do so, close your eyes at the appropriate time. Okay, let's go. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, imagine breathing in a feeling of calm and relaxation. And as you exhale, allowing feelings of tension or stress or any worries to leave you on your outward breath. As you breathe in, get a sense that your body is getting more and more relaxed. And on the outward breath, if it's safe to do so, allow your eyelids to close. And in doing so, notice immediately your whole body feels deeper and deeper relaxed. As your physical body relaxes, your mind becomes more alert, more intuitive, more imaginative. In your mind, you can travel the world, you can travel the galaxy, you can travel the universe. The laws of physics, the laws of time and space don't apply to your imagination. You can literally do anything. In fact, one of the most creative people that have ever lived was a big fan of imagination. His wacky, crazy ideas built an empire that still influences our values and beliefs and life scripts even today. Walt Disney was a visionary, and one of his biggest visions was the idea of a magical place that people can visit and suspend their reality, their disbelief, the ongoing stresses and strains of regular life, and for perhaps just a few days, they could enter a new world. What he thought of was the most magical place on the planet. And I want you to imagine you are in a nearby town, a town called Winter Park. And Winter Park is just a short drive away from Disney World. And from here, I want you to imagine that there is a lake. And it being Florida, there are many lakes. I want you to imagine looking out onto one of these lakes, seeing gentle bobbing of waves on the surface, representing perhaps the busyness of your mind right now. And as you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to imagine what it would be like if on your inward breath you were injecting resources like creativity and imagination. And on the outward breath, you were letting go of anything that was responsible for that turbulence on the surface. Busy thoughts, worries, and stresses. Allow it all to just leave your body now. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to imagine what it is that is your biggest fear. Perhaps it's self-doubt. Maybe it's a phobia, something real. Maybe it's a memory. But I want you to imagine that this isn't in your mind. This is an image hovering over that lake. See it on that movie screen, that thing, that memory, that representation of what is your biggest fear, what represents terror to you. Because in my experience, things that cause terror aren't logical, they're emotional. And those emotions tend to be linked to something known as submodalities. As you imagine that image hovering over that lake, I want you to locate where you feel fear in your own body as you see the image. Perhaps, for many people, it's there in the solar plexus, right in between the rib cage, or perhaps around the chest, feeling like a tightening of muscles, or perhaps an elevated heart rate. But what's interesting is that this is just a physiological response to the image or movie in front of you. Notice as you drain the colours away. As you drain the colours away, somehow it reduces the level of terror. Maybe it started at terror and now it's just, slight discomfort. And then I want you to reduce the size. So instead of being a large, giant screen hovering above that lake, make it smaller. Perhaps the same size as a small tablet or phone device, but keep it in the location so it's hovering all the way over that lake. You now have a smaller. Make it blurry. And then I want you to inject silliness into that image. The kind of silliness that perhaps popped into the mind of Walt Disney. Who would have thought of a talking mouse? Or an elephant that could fly with its ears? As you inject creativity and silliness into that image that used to create terror, notice that the emotion changes. Then inject a different music, a background. Maybe that's comedic music, silly music, perhaps even circus music. And in doing so, changing these submodalities changes the emotion. And now perhaps with this image with no color, smaller, tiny above this lake, with silly voices perhaps, or silly music, try your very hardest to get scared. Try to feel terror when the image responsible for terror has changed. And I want you to consider this ability to change these thoughts as an insurance policy against future moments of anxiety, fear, or terror. That the policy that you now have means that your unconscious mind knows how to reduce the severity of anxiety and fear. And once you know something, you then can't not know that thing. Once you've been introduced to it, it's always an option. So at any point in the future when you feel terror, You have the ability to drain the colours away, shrink it, perhaps move it further away, injecting silliness and creativity, silly music into that movie, into that image, and you can't help but notice that it's changed. And I want you to think back to your past and remember that there was a time, perhaps, that you didn't know how to cycle or skate. And then you learnt. And the moment you learnt, you knew how to do that thing. Maybe ice skating, roller skating, cycling, or perhaps, if you haven't done any of those things, even walking. But once you know how to walk or know how to skate, it's difficult to remember what it was like not to know how to do that. And now you know how to take a memory or a future idea that causes perhaps terror, but perhaps something else, perhaps envy. And let's see if this same insurance policy works on any emotion that might not be appropriate in a frequent sense. Look over that lake just half an hour away from Disney World and use that same imagination to create a giant image of something that you used to be envious about. Maybe a moment of jealousy or envy where someone had something or did something and you wanted that, and you remember feeling envious. Maybe you see yourself in the movie, or maybe it feels like you're looking at things through your own eyes. But I want you to get a sense that something is changing. And I want you to put that image to the side and then remember a time when you felt inspired, that perhaps you saw someone having something or doing something, and rather than feeling envious, you felt inspired. Perhaps the image on the left is the image that represents envy, and perhaps the image on the right represents an image that represents inspiration. And I want you to notice the difference, and there will be a difference. One might be still, the other might be a movie. One might be brighter or bigger and the other smaller. And all I want you to do is imagine that you've got a giant syringe and you are extracting whatever the ingredients are of that movie or image that represents inspiration, and then inject them into that movie or image that represents envy. One is updated to the other, and from this point forward, your unconscious mind will have a deep desire to feel inspiration as an alternative to envy. What if it's possible for you to see that nice car, or see that person doing well in their career, or see that person that you're attracted to, and think, what would I need to do to have that or experience that? Or perhaps just admire that it's possible for people to have and experience and enjoy different things. Inspiration can come in many forms. Envy is built on the premise that you want something that someone else has and you can't have it. And inspiration, perhaps, is not so different. Maybe the premise is simply, you want that thing, and on some level, you feel it's possible for you to have it too. Envy locks down your resources. Inspiration opens them, creates new possibilities. There is a theory called the self-fulfilling prophecy. When you have envy, you're telling yourself, I'll never have that. I won't be able to do that. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But when you feel inspiration, you're telling your unconscious mind that that's possible for me. If I learn the right things, do the right things, the right behavior, the right thoughts, the right beliefs, and it opens the possibility to also create a self-fulfilling prophecy. There you are in Winter Park looking over that lake. Terror is now a reminder that you have an insurance policy to change your emotional state. And envy is just one step away from inspiration. And inspiration is just one step away from motivation, which is just one step away from action, where you can create a future that perhaps will be the envy of others because they haven't learnt what you now know. There you are in Winter Park, just a short distance from the most magical place on the planet. And you feel that you're tapping into some of that creativity of the legendary Walt Disney. That creativity is being injected into you. That imagination is being injected into you, and very soon, when you awake, you will awaken with new skills, new strategies, but also with the extract of the creativity and imagination of Walt Disney. As you realize that you're not really in this place in Florida called Winter Park, there is no lake, there is no floating cinema hovering over that lake. These are all just thoughts within your imagination, just like Walt Disney imagined everything from Dumbo to Mickey Mouse to Fantasia. These same elements of imagination are now going to work for you rather than against you. As you realize that you're listening to my voice firmly in the present, in your own physical proximity. You're in your own physical body right now, and very soon I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, and you will awaken feeling creative, feeling inspired, feeling that you have an insurance policy against terror within your own life. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle those fingers, wiggle those toes, get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now. Counting from 1 to 10 to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.
So just stopping the recording there for the podcast listeners, continuing very shortly for those watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching that. I'll be honest with you, when that started and I saw a location I'd never heard of and 2 potentially deemed unresourceful states and 3 very random words, I wasn't sure how I was going to do that. Hopefully that was useful in some way, beneficial, even more so. Largely that was elements of NLP submodality work. I'm a big fan of Richard Bandler, and one of the most profound books that I read were the books that he wrote, but also that were written by Stephen Connor Ray Andreas, and it was Using Your Brain for a Change. And there was another one as well, Using Your Brain for a Change, and something about the mind. But there were two really profound books, and I remember them, little short books, illustrated. And there was principles mainly of submodality work within NLP. And one of the ones that I found very useful was this idea of mapping across, that if a thought can create a particular emotion, there's going to be clues as to the submodalities within that if you map them across, it's going to create a different resource, a different state that could be useful in some way. Anyway, I hope that was useful. If I remember what that other book was, I'm going to put it in the show notes below. Please like and subscribe to the show, because that's how the audience gets bigger. And if you have got any thoughts, or perhaps you remember what that other book was that was kind of written like that, put it in the comments, because that would really help. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.